things that Yahshua is saying. These are things that Christ is saying. So how can you gain? This is what you go to when people ask you to describe, because a lot of people, they're not going to accept anything that you read out of the Old Testament, because they've been blinded to that, thinking that you're not supposed to read out of the Old Testament. With the exception of 5 verses in Isaiah and 6 verses in Exodus, everything else we have read thus far has been New Testament. And this is completely within the New Testament that you can bust up this so-called popular doctrine that floats about. This is totally contained within the New Testament. So it lets you know that the people that are professing that God is love and all these other things, they say don't read the Old Testament, but from what we can tell they don't read the New Testament either. Because the New Testament busts up all those lies that they telling. Every last one of them. And these people have enormous congregations. People love to hear a lie. People want to hear a lie. It's amazing how you can get 10,000 people to follow a lie, and it'll take you all day to get 5 people to believe the truth. There's something about a lie that just is attractive. All right. Mark chapter 7, and we're going to read verse 6 through 13. He answered and said unto them, now this is Yahshua talking again. We're in the red. Well has he says prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written. Now sweet Jesus wouldn't be this aggressive now. This is going to be some heart breaking stuff to people, that this is the Messiah talking. This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of Elohim, you hold the traditions of men, as the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things you do. And he said unto them, full well you reject the commandment of Elohim, that you may keep your own tradition. What? That oral tradition that was handed down to us by that word of mouth. For Moshe said, honor your father and your mother. Whoso curses father or mother, let him die to death. But you say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is korban, that is to say, a gift, by whatsoever you might be profited by me, he shall be free. And you suffer him no more to do aught for his father or his mother, making the word of Elohim of none effect through your tradition, which you have delivered, and many such like things do you. And we find that we take the doctrine, these commandments of men, and we spread them all over the globe. And people have a tendency to believe whatever they hear the most. So this is where you see the power of media. Why do you think Lucifer has his so many of his people to control that media? Because if 9 out of 10 people hear a lie 6 to 7 times, they're going to believe the lie because of the amount of times that they've heard the lie. They then hear that truth 1 to 2 times. They now give the lie more weight and more credit than the truth. This is why Lucifer want to make sure that he controls that media, because he control what you hear, then that means he can control what you believe. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7. Go ahead, brother.
The only thing I can say about that is that if you hear that lie more than once, twice, 6 times, it's almost like the lie becomes law. Too, because same thing as a few other laws that came about. If you allow certain things that you've allowed, let's say, for a period of time, like streets, paying for streets or paying for laws for taxes and so forth like that, if you do not go back and deal with that after that thing is finished, later on it becomes law. And get from underneath it after that. Because if you decide, well, years later, no, I'm not going to deal with that, then they had already made laws to put you in jail. So I can understand these people looking at lies If you do not stop a lie, then everybody consistently listens and listens, and they'll wind up making that lie law.
That lie by default becomes the truth.
Right.
If you agree within a certain situation, there are certain things that we are entering into contract, not knowing that we are entering into contract, but you follow within some of the things that they're doing, and you're right. You can't back out because you have went so far as to agree. There has to be a certain way that you have to back out of that lie once you done followed so far within. You know, it's like, you know, they read you your Miranda rights and things like that, and they're telling you right off the rip that you have the right to remain silent. What Jake keep doing? What had happened was me and Keith and them, we were shooting, right? You have the right to remain silent. Then what had happened was I came back by there, right? You have the right to remain silent. Then Kiki and them came and picked me up. Brother. But you know what? Everything that you done said can now be held against you. You had the right to shut your mouth. And then it already told you your rights. What does Jake keep doing? Keep flapping them lips. Keep flapping them lips. 6 months later, you're going to wish you hadn't said that. 6 months later, when you're sitting down and they got all this stuff stacked up against you, now they finna take the words that you did say and flip them around. Now, the little words that you did say finna turn into all this other stuff that you didn't say. Wait a minute. That's not what I meant. Yeah, well, if you didn't say nothing, they couldn't have misconstrued what you meant. Right. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 15 through 29. Beware of false prophets. This is once again the Messiah talking. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Everyone that brings not forth good fruit, every tree that brings forth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone that says unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Adonai, Adonai, have we not prophesied in your name? And in your name have cast out devils? And in your name done many wonderful works? And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you that work iniquity. He says, depart from me, you that work iniquity. We know that iniquity is lawlessness. So there are going to be many people that says they did these wonderful works. Why would they not be accepted by Christ? See, because they're dealing in the traditions of men and not the traditions that were set forth by Yahweh, his Father. Verse 24. Therefore, whosoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, that it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone that hears these sayings of mine, and does them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Yahshua had ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine. For he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Once again, this is what ticks people off. Because you teach and speak this word with authority, they will accuse you of being arrogant. He did not teach the word as scribes, but he taught the word as one having authority. Saul taught the word as one having authority. And people will have things to say against you because of that. And it says right in here that he's going to say, I never knew you, you that work iniquity. According to them, the law was nailed to the cross. So here it is, they're working lawlessness. Your works are your deeds. So you can't speak the word and then have deeds of lawlessness and think that you shall be accepted by Christ. It's not going to work. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Psalm chapter 69. But see, we follow these unauthorized teachers, and we believe what they say because they are sitting in a nice sized church and they have a really nice car. But our people do not take into consideration that black churches are owned by Gentiles. You see all those black people there, and at the end of the day, they put a certain amount of money in a bag that goes to the white people who own the church or to whose charter they are under. If they're Baptists, they got to pay money to the Baptist convention. They got to pay money to those people. Some of those churches are like sister churches to other Gentile organizations. They then have to bottle up a large portion of their, this is why they have to teach tithe so much, because a lot of the money has to go out of the door. The money has to go to the parent church. So you have a nice sized organization right down the street that when you go in there, all you see is black people. They're owned by Gentiles in a whole nother state. That Gentile has 5 to 6 to 7 other churches spread across the United States. That Gentile then controls the doctrine that black people deal with. Psalm chapter 69, verse 1. Save me, O Elohim, for the waters are come in unto my soul. I sink in deep mire where there is no standing. I am come into deep waters where the floods overflow me. I am weary of my crying. My throat is dried. My eyes fail while I wait for my Elohim. They that hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of mine head. They that would destroy me, being mine enemies, wrongfully are mighty. Then I restored that which I took not away. Now that's righteousness. O Elohim, thou knowest my foolishness, and my sins are not hid from you. Let not them that wait on you, O Yahweh Elohim of hosts, be ashamed for my sake. Let not those that seek you be confounded for my sake, O Elohim of Israel. He says, Elohim, thou knowest my foolishness, and my sins are not hid from you. Remember the brother that when they mentioned the commandments, the brother spoke real nice and hard. All these things have I done from my youth up. What lacketh I yet? What'd he say? You know my sins and my foolishness? That's approaching righteously unto Yahweh your Elohim. Not, I've kept all these commandments. What lacketh I? Right. Right. You see the difference? But don't get it twisted. This is a psalm of David. You have any idea how rich these brothers was? Don't fool yourself. The rich man wasn't nearly as rich as David. No way, no how. We think we rich. You can tell the difference in the people who rich and the people who think they're rich. When I deal with rich people, they don't give you a bit of trouble. Everything funny when you got a whole lot of money. They don't bother you for nothing. The person who think they rich, they follow you all around their house and you stop, they bump into you in the back. What are you doing? Those are the people that think they rich and they looking around to see if you gonna touch their stuff. Rich people let you in their house and say, you want tea and crumpets? I'm gonna go out to the back on the balcony. Do what you like. What? They go run to the store and just leave you in the house because they rich. They don't care. You can tell the difference between rich people and the people who think they're rich. That brother wasn't rich. He thought he was rich. There's a total different mindset. Verse 7. Because for your sake I have borne reproach. Shame has covered my face. This is the situation that we find ourselves in, having to deal with the reproach of Yahweh. I have been made to bear the reproach of those that hate you. This is what happens when you speak this word. You have to bear the reproach that these people have. They don't have a problem with you. You just the one that they see. They got a problem with Yahweh's word, man. Verse 8, I am become a stranger unto my brethren and an alien unto my mother's children. For the zeal of your house have eaten me up, and the reproaches of them that reproach you are fallen upon me. So I got to deal with these people because they hate you. When I wept and chastened my soul with fasting, that was to my reproach. I made sackcloth also my garment, and I became a proverb unto them. He became an ugly word to them. They that sit in the gate speak against me, and I was the song of the drunkards. But as for me, my prayer is unto you, O Yahweh, in an acceptable time, O Elohim, in the multitude of your mercy. Hear me in the truth of your salvation. This is patience. Remember, the Spirit worketh patience. He says, in an acceptable time, O Elohim, in the multitude of your mercy, hear me. So the brother is already saying, you know, I know how you work. I know all these people are saying these god-awful things against me. I know that I've been made to bear the reproach of those that hate you. I know this because I'm speaking your holy word, and they look at my sins and they attribute those things unto you. I know that all these things are happening, but I know that you're going to hear me in an acceptable time when it's pleasing unto you. Verse 14, deliver me out of the mire and let me not sink. Let me be delivered from them that hate me, and out of the deep waters. Let not the water flood overflow me, neither let the deep swallow me up. And let not the pit shut her mouth upon me. Hear me, O Yahweh, for your loving kindness is good. Turn unto me according to the multitude of your tender mercies, and hide not your face from your servant. For I am in trouble. Hear me speedily. Now, he says, turn not away from your servant. Understand, Yahweh, what we read last sermon, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. What is your sacrifice? How are you entered into covenant with Yahweh? Servants. There's a difference between a servant and a worshiper. Worshipers just come and sit and listen. Servants do things. Verse 18, draw near unto my soul and redeem it. Deliver me because of mine enemies. Thou have known my reproach and my shame and my dishonor. Mine adversaries are all before you. Reproach have broken my heart, and I am full of heaviness. And I looked for some to take pity, but there was none, and for comforters, but I found none. They gave me also gall for my meat, and in my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. Sound familiar? Right. That's what they gave Yahshua. Verse 22. Let their table become a snare before them. That which should have been for their welfare, let it become a trap. Let their eyes be darkened that they see not, and make their loins continually to shake. Does that sound familiar? Didn't we just read that earlier? Okay, but we read that where? In the New Testament. Verse 24. Pour out thine indignation upon them, and let your wrathful anger take hold of them. See, people are not being taught that the same doctrine flows throughout this book from Genesis to Revelation. They're being told that it's a different doctrine in the beginning of this book than what is at the end of this book. See, so you have to be able to deal with these people from within the part of the book that they claim they read. Because our people are suffering from this. Not do this to battle with these people, but do this for the souls of our people. Israel is being led astray by those that have no authorization to teach them. Verse 25, let their habitation be desolate, and let none dwell in their tents, for they persecute him whom you have smitten, and they talk to the grief of those whom you have wounded. Add iniquity unto their iniquity, and let them not come into your righteousness. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living, and not be written with the righteous. But I am poor and sorrowful. Let your salvation, O Elohim, set me upon high. I will praise the name of Elohim with a song, and will magnify him with thanksgiving. Once again, how you're going to praise his name in a song if you can't say it. This also shall please Yahweh, better than an ox or a bullock that has horns and hoofs. So he's already talking about the spiritual sacrifices. He's already talking about the spiritual sacrifice over the natural sacrifice, but they're still sacrificing naturally. And he has already given and lifted up that spiritual sacrifice over the natural sacrifice. But most people say, oh, it became spiritual during the New Testament, during Yeshua. He's already talking about it. Verse 32, the humble shall see this and be glad, and your heart shall live that seek Elohim. For Yahweh hears the poor and despise not his prisoners. Let the heaven and earth praise him, the seas and everything that moves therein. For Elohim will save Zion and will build the cities of Yehudah, that they may dwell there and have it in possession. The seed also of his servants shall inherit it, and they that love his name shall dwell therein. And this is being said then that his seed shall inherit that land. You know, once again, that also busts up that whole heaven doctrine that he's already speaking of things about the Messiah within these things before the Messiah comes upon the scene, and is also mentioning the same thing that the Israelites asked, have you come at this time to restore the kingdom unto Israel? So you find the same thing in this book, from the beginning of this book to the end of this book, if you deal with it in the righteousness that's contained into this. So remember the things that we have read, Israel, because this is the doctrine that Christ has left unto us, and we must make sure that we have the ability to explain this to people from within the New Testament, because they don't believe that the Old Testament is valid. But if you can show them these things within the New Testament, then you may be able to get them to understand that it is one complete canon, that Yahweh has put this together as he saw fit. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat Shalom.